You ever have one of those moments where your entire life changes in an instant? Not the kind you see coming. The kind that blindsides you so hard you swear the universe is playing some cruel joke. Yeah, that was me. It was supposed to be a normal night. I had spent the entire day drowning in legal documents, barely glancing at my phone. Lisa, my wife, had left me a few texts, something about a girls' night out. I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because my brain was fried. I had spent the past 3 years crawling my way up the corporate law firm ladder. In this case, I was working on It Was Big, the kind that could launch my career into places I never thought possible. By the time I finally looked at the clock, it was past midnight. I sighed, grabbed my keys, and headed home. I should have known something was wrong the second I pulled into our driveway. The house was too quiet. Lisa wasn't exactly the type to come home early from a night out, but something felt off. I could feel it in my bones, the way the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Then came the flashing lights, red and blue, cutting through the darkness like knives. At first, I thought there had been an accident nearby, but then I saw them, 4 cops blocking my driveway. "James Monroe," one of them called out as I stepped out of my car. I frowned. "Yeah, turn around, hands where we can see them." I let out a half laugh, assuming for a split second that this had to be some kind of mistake. "I'm a lawyer, for God's sake. I know my rights." "Wait, hold on." I started raising my hand slightly, still trying to process what the hell was happening. "What's this about?" The officer didn't answer. Another one moved in and yanked my hands behind my back. Cold metal snapped around my wrists. Handcuffs. Real ones. What the hell is going on? My voice rose as panic settled in. I tried to turn my head, but they were already patting me down, shoving me forward. "I'm a lawyer." "You can't just James Monroe. You're under arrest for fraud and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent." Fraud. Identity theft. I let out a breathless laugh. "You've got the wrong guy. I'm a corporate attorney. This is insane." That's when I heard it. Laughter. Not from the cops, not from me. From her. I turned my head just in time to see Lisa and her friends huddled together on the porch, wine glasses in hand, cackling like this was some sort of comedy special. "Oh my God, you should see your face." Lisa howled, doubling over. "Priceless, absolutely priceless." I went still. "You?" I exhaled, trying to process what I was seeing. "Lisa, what the hell is this?" She wiped at her eyes, breathless from laughing. "It's just a prank, baby." Her friends clapped and cheered, and one of them even had the audacity to pull out their phone and start recording. "You're a lawyer, right?" Mia, Lisa's childhood best friend, giggled. "Let's see if you can talk your way out of this one." The cops weren't in on the joke. That much was clear. They were dead serious. One of them was already reading me my rights, and another was reaching for something. A warrant. My mind spun. "Lisa," I said, my voice low, deadly calm. "Tell them it's a joke." She waved a dismissive hand. "Relax, James. I'll clear it up in the morning. You'll be back before breakfast." That was when I realized she didn't get it. She didn't understand what she had done. This wasn't some harmless joke where you jump out from behind a door with a camera. This wasn't some silly scare prank. This was a felony charge. She had given false evidence to the police enough to get me arrested. And these cops, they weren't actors. They weren't laughing along. They were just doing their job. My heart slammed in my chest as they shoved me into the back of the squad car. I looked at Lisa one last time through the window. She was still smiling, still laughing. I wasn't, because I knew something she didn't. She had just ruined her entire life. You know that moment when everything slows down, when reality smashes into you so hard that your mind just refuses to process it? That was me, sitting in the back of that police car, hand scuffed behind my back. The flashing red and blue lights painting streaks across the night sky. Lisa was still laughing. She actually thought this was funny. The officers didn't. They were stone-faced, professional, treating me like every other suspect they had ever arrested. As we pulled out of the driveway, I kept my eyes locked on Lisa. I needed her to see me, to understand what she had done. She didn't. She had no clue. That was the last time she ever saw me. The cold reality of a joke. Jail isn't like the movies. There's no dramatic moment where you stand up and shout about your innocence while the officers suddenly realize they made a mistake. No, it's a long, humiliating, degrading process. I was fingerprinted, mugshot, tossed into a holding cell with men who had actually committed crimes. A drunk in the corner mumbled to himself, occasionally laughing at nothing. A guy with a split lip paced back and forth like a caged animal. Another man, covered in tattoos, sat against the far wall watching me, studying me. I sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead, my mind racing. I knew Lisa would clear things up. She had to. Once she sobered up, she'd go down to the station and tell them it was a prank. Right. Hours passed. Nothing. No one came for me. I finally got my one phone call, and of course I called her. The phone rang and rang and rang. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. She didn't pick up. She left me there. That was when I stopped waiting for her to fix it. That was when I stopped trusting her. My decision. By the time my lawyer arrived, I had already made up my mind. He was furious. I had worked with him before, and the moment he walked in, his face twisted in anger. "James," he exhaled, shaking his head. "Tell me this is a joke." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. That's the funny part, isn't it? It was supposed to be. He rubbed a hand down his face. "Your wife and her friends gave false statements. The police took it seriously because they handed over fabricated bank statements and fraudulent emails in your name." My jaw clenched. She had gone that far. My own wife had planted fake evidence against me. "Will she face charges?" I asked, my voice tight. He sighed. "If you press charges, then yes. But James, let's be real. You don't want to go down that road. This whole thing is going to blow over once she comes to her senses. Let's just get you out, and then you two can, I don't know, talk it out." I stared at him. Talk it out? Like this was some petty argument over dinner. No, there would be no talking this out. There would be no coming back from this. Lisa had destroyed something in me. Not just my trust, not just our marriage. She destroyed the life I had built. And I was going to do the same to hers. Vanish without a trace. I made the first call as soon as I got out. Not to Lisa, not to her friends. To a private investigator. "You want to disappear?" the voice on the other end asked, calm and professional. "Yes," I said without hesitation completely. They didn't ask questions. Their kind never did. Within 24 hours, my bank accounts were emptied, every social media profile deleted, and my name removed from every database that wasn't government mandated. Then came the final step. I resigned from my law firm. Not in person. I sent an email. Cold, impersonal, no explanation. Then I bought a one-way ticket out of town. Lisa didn't even realize I was gone until days later. Lisa's panic. I imagined it vividly. Lisa waking up, hungover, expecting me to storm into the house furious, expecting a fight, expecting an argument. But instead, silence, no calls, no texts, no angry confrontation, just nothing. At first, she probably brushed it off. Maybe she thought I was just giving her the silent treatment. But then she must have gone looking. The firm. He resigned. Didn't say why. His friends. We haven't heard from him. His family. No idea where he is. His bank account closed. I imagined the panic creeping in when she realized I was actually gone. No trace, no clues, no way to find me. The husband she thought would always come back never did. My new life begins. For the first time in years, I felt free. No toxic marriage, no dead-end job, no fake friends, just me, starting over, reinventing myself. I left behind the name James Monroe, and I became someone else. Lisa would spend years looking for me. She would beg, she would cry, she would swear she was sorry, but by the time she finally found me again, I would be sitting on the judge's bench, and she would be the one on trial. You ever wonder what it feels like to be erased? To wake up one morning and find that someone who was supposed to be permanent in your life just vanishes? Lisa never thought it would happen to her. She thought I'd come back. She thought I'd forgive her. She thought that no matter what, James Monroe would always be her husband. She was wrong. And the moment she opened that envelope, the one that arrived on her doorstep with no return address, no warning, she knew she had lost me forever. The first year without me, Lisa searched. She called my old firm. She went to my family, my friends. She tried tracking my bank accounts, thinking I must have hidden somewhere nearby. But I had left nothing behind. I was a ghost. At first, she must have told herself stories to make sense of it. Maybe he's just mad. Maybe he needs time. Then, as weeks turned into months, the excuses dried up. The panic set in because she didn't just lose her husband. She lost her safety net. The expensive house foreclosed, the lifestyle gone. The friends who used to laugh at my expense, they didn't stick around when she had nothing left to offer. And then came the shame. She had been so certain that I would crawl back, that I would forgive her, that I would sit down and talk it out like some spineless man who didn't know when he was being played. Instead, I had done the one thing she never expected. I had disappeared so completely that I became a myth. The letter arrives. It was a cold morning when it happened. Lisa was living in a small apartment by then, a far cry from the luxury she had once flaunted. No doorman, no fancy security system, just a cramped space with a single window overlooking an alleyway. She was barely surviving. And then the envelope appeared on her doorstep, plain light, no postage stamp. Someone had delivered it by hand. Her hands shook as she picked it up. The weight of it, the finality of it. She knew before she even opened it. She knew it was from me, and she knew it wasn't good. Inside the envelope there was no apology, no long-winded explanation. Just a single-page document. A divorce decree finalized. Signed. The name at the bottom? James Monroe. Lisa read it once, twice, then a third time. Her breath coming faster, the walls closing in. This wasn't possible. Divorces took months, years. They required paperwork, court hearings, mediation. But this had already been settled. It was already done. She wasn't even given a chance to contest it. I had made sure of that. Lisa's breakdown. The thing about Lisa was she always thought she had control. She thought she could play with people's lives and then fix things when they got messy. But when she saw my signature on that paper, something inside her shattered. The man she had once laughed at, the one she had humiliated, set up, tossed aside, had managed to do something she never expected. He had walked away first and never looked back. Her desperate attempts to reach me, Lisa did the only thing she could do. She tried to fight it. She went to every courthouse trying to understand how the divorce had been processed without her knowledge. She called every lawyer she knew, desperate to challenge it. But my tracks were covered. The law firm that had handled it, discreet, untouchable. My legal name changed. My accounts wiped clean. I didn't just divorce Lisa. I erased myself from her world. And she couldn't handle it. The moment she realized she lost, Lisa went back to her apartment that night, exhausted, defeated. She sat on her couch staring at the divorce decree in her hands. And then she did something she hadn't done in years. She cried. Not the fake kind she used to use to get her way, not the manipulative tears she used when she wanted something. No, this was real. Because for the first time in her life she had lost control. And worse, she had lost to me. What comes next? Lisa would spend years regretting that night. She would tell herself that it was just a prank, just a joke gone too far. She would tell herself that if she had just called me that morning, everything would have been fine. But it wouldn't have, because I had already decided to leave long before she set me up. She just gave me the excuse I needed, and by the time she found me again, I would be untouchable. You ever watch something collapse in slow motion? A bridge breaking apart one steel beam at a time. A house crumbling from the foundation brick by brick. That's what happened to Lisa's life. She didn't lose everything all at once. No, that would have been too easy. Instead, she lost it in pieces, each one cutting deeper, each one making her realize just how much she had taken for granted. And me, I wasn't around to see it, but I knew because I had made sure of it. The first blow, the friends she thought she had. Lisa always believed she was the queen of social circles. She had friends in high places, connections that made her feel untouchable. But those same people, they were never really her friends. They were mine. The business dinners, the charity events, the high-class soirees. We went to those because of me. And when I disappeared, those invitations stopped coming. At first, she tried to act like nothing had changed. She showed up at gatherings, forcing smiles, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. But the whispers started. People looked at her differently. Some out of pity, others out of amusement, because they all knew. Everyone knew that Lisa's husband had walked out and left her with nothing. And in those circles, weakness is social suicide. One by one, the people she had once called friends drifted away. Unanswered texts, ignored calls, until eventually Lisa wasn't invited anywhere at all. The second blow, the money that vanished. Lisa loved money, not just having it, spending it. The designer clothes, the luxury vacations, the overpriced wine, that was her life. She thought it would never end. But here's the thing about wealth. It doesn't last when you don't know how to earn it. Lisa had never worked a day in her life, and now she had no access to my money because I had made sure of it. The joint accounts emptied before I left, the credit cards canceled, the house tied to a mortgage. She couldn't afford a loan. At first, she refused to believe it. She spent money like nothing had changed, convinced that I'd come back eventually. But when the bills started piling up, when the landlord called about payments, when she realized she couldn't even afford her weekly spa appointments, reality hit her like a freight train. Lisa had no idea how to survive without me. The third blow, the home that wasn't hers anymore. The house was the last thing to go. Our home, the one she once flaunted to her friends, the one she loved to show off during parties. She tried to keep it, she fought for it, but the math was simple. No money equals no house. She was forced to downsize. At first, she tried to hold on to some illusion of class, renting a small condo in a nice neighborhood. But it didn't last because the truth was Lisa had never been self-sufficient. She didn't know how to budget. She didn't know how to work. And when the money ran out completely, she had to move again. This time into a tiny apartment with peeling paint and neighbors who didn't care who she used to be. The fourth blow. The job she never thought she'd need. Lisa working. The thought was almost funny. She had spent years looking down on people with 9-to-5 jobs. She had mocked the idea of settling for a regular paycheck. But now she needed one. Her first job was at a boutique clothing store. Nothing fancy, just folding clothes, restocking shelves. She hated it. The customers treated her like nothing. Her boss didn't care about her soba story. She wasn't Lisa Monroe, the glamorous wife of a lawyer. She was just another employee. And the worst part, she wasn't good at it. She showed up late. She refused to listen to instructions. She still carried herself like she was better than everyone else. And after a few months, she was fired. One job after another, the pattern repeated. She couldn't hold on to anything. She wasn't built for this life, but it was the only life she had left. The fifth blow. The loneliness she couldn't escape. Lisa had always been surrounded by people. Even when she wasn't happy, she had someone to talk to, someone to impress. But now she was alone. The friends were gone. The new social circles she'd tried to force herself into rejected her because no one wants to be around a fallen queen. And that loneliness, it crept in like a disease. At first, she tried to distract herself. She went on meaningless dates, hoping that some rich man would sweep her away from her miserable life. But they saw through her desperation. She wasn't the prize anymore. She was a warning, a reminder of what happens when you lose everything. And as the years went by, Lisa stopped trying. She accepted her fate. She stopped checking her phone for messages that would never come. She stopped looking at old pictures of a life she could never get back. She stopped hoping. She had nothing. And for the first time in her life, she understood what it felt like to be discarded. But then the invitation arrived. Lisa had spent years drowning in her own failures, years trying to crawl back up only to be knocked down again. But one night, while sitting in her tiny apartment, something arrived in the mail. A golden envelope, elegant, expensive. She frowned, flipping it over, scanning the sender. And then her heart stopped, because the name on the invitation, Judge James Monroe. What comes next? Lisa thought she had suffered enough. She thought her punishment was over. But she was wrong, because this invitation wasn't an olive branch. It was a trap, and soon she would walk right into it. I wondered how long it would take for Lisa to break completely. 3 years, 5, maybe even a decade. But she crumbled much sooner than I expected. She thought she had lost everything, her money, her friends, her comfort. She was wrong because what she had lost wasn't enough. Not yet. The invitation that changed everything. It was a cold winter night when the envelope arrived at her door. Lisa had been living in survival mode for years. By then, she had stopped expecting good things. So when she found the golden envelope in her mailbox, she almost threw it away. It was too nice, too expensive to be meant for her. But something about it felt important, so she opened it. And when she saw my name on the inside, Judge James Monroe, her blood ran cold. Because for years, she had been searching for me. For years, she had tried to find out what had happened. And now I had found her. The event she never expected to attend. The invitation was to a gala, not just any gala, a prestigious, high-profile legal event filled with powerful people. The kind of people Lisa used to surround herself with, the kind of people she had fallen away from. She almost didn't go. Almost. But curiosity is a funny thing. She told herself she needed closure, that she needed to see me in person to hear the truth from my lips. So, she pulled together the last bit of dignity she had left, bought a second-hand designer dress, and walked into that event like she still belonged. She had no idea what was coming. Seeing me again, I was already watching her when she stepped inside. She looked different, not just older, but smaller, like she had been hollowed out from the inside. The woman who used to radiate arrogance now moved like a ghost of herself, afraid of her own shadow. Good. She deserved to feel every ounce of that emptiness. And then finally, our eyes met. Her breath caught. For a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Shock, regret, maybe even hope. But she didn't know. She didn't realize that tonight was not about reconciliation. It was about her final reckoning, her public humiliation. Lisa didn't approach me right away. She lingered, pretending to mingle, but I could feel her eyes on me the entire time. I let her wait. I let her stew. Then, as the event reached its peak, the host took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor one of the brightest legal minds of our generation. A man who has not only redefined justice, but has overcome unimaginable betrayal and hardship to reach the highest level of law. Please welcome Judge James Monroe. The applause was deafening. Lisa froze, because the words unimaginable betrayal weren't just a coincidence. They were a warning. I took the stage, adjusted the microphone, and let my gaze linger on her before I spoke. I wasn't always a judge. I began my voice smooth, controlled. Once upon a time, I was a fool. A man who believed in love. A man who trusted the wrong person. The crowd leaned in, eager for the drama. Lisa went pale. And then one night I continued, my voice darkening. That person betrayed me in the worst way possible. They humiliated me, set me up, laughed as I was taken away in handcuffs. But in the end, I let a slow, knowing smile stretch across my face. In the end, they lost. Silence. A sharp, suffocating silence. Lisa staggered backward. She knew. Everyone in that room knew. She had just become the punchline of my victory speech. And the best part, no one even knew her name. She was irrelevant, just another face in the crowd. And I had won. Her desperate attempt to talk to me. Lisa didn't leave right away. She stayed hovering, waiting for an opening. And when the night was nearly over, she finally got what she wanted, a moment alone with me. I let her have it, because I wanted to see just how broken she had become. She reached for my hand like I was still the man she had married. "James," she whispered, her voice shaking. I don't even know what to say. I raised an eyebrow. You don't. She swallowed hard. I was stupid. I was selfish. I never meant for things to go that far. You have to believe me. I let out a quiet chuckle. Believe you, I echoed, tilting my head. Why? Lisa flinched. I stepped closer, watching the way her breathing quickened. I gave you a life most people dream of, I murmured, my voice calm. And you destroyed it. You laugh while you did it. And you thought I'd come back. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought I was young and reckless, she admitted, her voice cracking. I thought you would forgive you, I finished for her. She nodded. I leaned in just enough to watch her tremble, and then I whispered the words that shattered whatever was left of her. Lisa, I don't forgive you. The final goodbye. I saw it happen. The moment the last bit of hope drained from her eyes. The realization that I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't holding a grudge. I was simply done. And that was worse than any revenge she had imagined. I turned away without another word, without looking back. Lisa. She stood there speechless for the first time in her life. And that was the last time I ever saw her because Lisa was already gone. She just hadn't realized it yet. I thought that watching Lisa crumble would be enough. I thought seeing her fall from grace, seeing her face twist with regret, hearing her voice shake when she begged for forgiveness, I thought it would satisfy me. But it didn't, because she wasn't the only one who played a part in my downfall. Her friends, the women who plotted with her, the ones who stood on that porch that night holding their wine glasses, laughing as I was shoved into a police car like a common criminal. They weren't innocent. They were co-conspirators, and now they were next. Step 1. Isolate and observe. The best revenge isn't loud. It isn't messy. It isn't some outburst of rage where you throw a punch and call it justice. No, the best revenge is slow, strategic. It's watching your enemies live their lives peacefully, and then destroying them piece by piece. So that's what I did. For months, I watched them from a distance. Mia, Jessica, Erin, the 3 women who had helped Lisa humiliate me. The 3 women who had encouraged her, egged her on, filmed me getting arrested. I needed to know who they were now, what they valued, what they couldn't afford to lose. And once I figured it out, I took it from them. Step 2. Mia's fall from power. Mia was the ringleader, Lisa's closest friend, the one who thought she was untouchable. She was a corporate executive now, CEO of a thriving company. She loved power. She thrived on it, and she had built her career on a mountain of secrets, so I exposed them. Not all at once. That would have been too easy. No, I leaked one piece of dirt at a time. A financial scandal here, a fraudulent business deal there, a whisper in the right ear. Until suddenly her perfect reputation cracked. At first she thought she could contain it. That's what powerful people do, right? They control the damage. But the damage kept coming because I made sure of it, until one day she walked into her office and found a boardroom full of executives staring at her coldly. And just like that, she was voted out. Her empire gone. And the worst part, she had no idea who did it. Step 3. Jessica's perfect life shattered. Jessica had always been the social butterfly, the influencer, the woman who built her entire existence around the illusion of perfection, the lavish vacations, the picture-perfect relationship with her fiancé, the carefully curated life that made other women jealous. But here's the thing about illusions. They're fragile, and all it takes is one crack for everything to break. So I found her weakest link, her fiancé, a wealthy, well-connected man who worshipped the ground she walked on. A man who had no idea that while he was planning their wedding, Jessica was sleeping with his best friend. I made sure he found out, not by telling him. That would have been too obvious. No, I made sure he walked in on them himself. A well-timed phone call, a perfectly orchestrated moment. And just like that, Jessica's perfect life was over. Her fiancé left her, her sponsors dropped her, her followers turned against her, and she became the thing she feared most: irrelevant. Step 4. Erin's quiet destruction. Erin was different from the others. She wasn't powerful like Mia. She wasn't famous like Jessica. She was just comfortable. A small-town girl who had married well. She had a husband, a family, stability. And that's exactly what I took from her. Because you see, Erin had secrets too. A past she had buried. A child she had given up for adoption, pretending it never happened. She thought no one knew, but I found out. And I found him, her son, a grown man now looking for answers. And I gave them to him. I told him everything. And then I sent him to her doorstep. And when her husband found out that she had lied to him, that she had kept something this big from him, the marriage crumbled. Erin lost everything. And me? I never even had to touch her. Step 5. The message I left for them. I never took credit for what happened, not directly. I let them suffer in silence, wondering who had orchestrated their downfall. But I did leave them one thing, a simple, anonymous message, 3 words: talk your way out of this. It was the same thing they had laughed at me about, the same words they had mocked me with the night they set me up. And when they read those words, they knew. They knew that this wasn't karma. It wasn't bad luck. It was me. And that was the greatest punishment of all, because I didn't just ruin their lives. I made sure they knew exactly why it happened, and they couldn't do a damn thing about it. Lisa thought it was over. She thought that after losing everything, her friends, her money, her dignity, she had already paid the price for what she did to me. She was wrong. Because true punishment isn't just about taking things away. It's about making sure the person feels the loss forever. I had taken everything from Lisa. Now it was time to give her something in return. Something she would never recover from. The trap I set. It started with a job offer. Lisa had been struggling for years, bouncing between meaningless jobs, barely surviving. She was desperate. So when an opportunity landed in her inbox, offering her a position at a prestigious law firm as an executive assistant, she didn't question it. She just grabbed it like a drowning woman clinging to a rope. She didn't know the rope was a noose. Her first day at work, Lisa showed up at the firm early, eager to impress. She dressed the part, trying to recapture the woman she used to be. Back when she had power, back when she was somebody, she was ushered into a conference room where the senior partners were waiting. And then the doors swung open, and I walked in. Her boss, her new judge, her executioner. The look on her face. I will never forget it. The way her entire body went still. The way her breath caught in her throat. The way her fingers tensed around the portfolio she was holding like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She opened her mouth probably to stammer out some pathetic excuse. But I didn't give her the chance. I smiled and then I said 2 words. Welcome aboard. And just like that, Lisa was mine. Her new reality. I made her life a living hell. Not in ways people could see, That would have been too easy. No. Lisa's punishment had to be slow, subtle, the kind of suffering that seeps into your bones until it becomes unbearable. I gave her impossible tasks. I made her redo projects at the last second. I scheduled meetings for her at 5 a.m. knowing she couldn't afford a car and had to take the bus. I ignored her in public, but made sure she knew I was watching her. I never raised my voice, never insulted her, never acted unprofessional. But every day I chipped away at whatever pride she had left, until there was nothing. The moment she broke, it took 6 months. 6 months of Lisa's swallowing her pride, walking into the office every day with her head down, avoiding my gaze. 6 months of pretending she could handle it, and then one evening, when the office was nearly empty, she knocked on my door. I let her in. She stood there shifting from foot to foot, her hands wringing together like she was trying to hold herself together. Then she whispered, "Please." I leaned back in my chair. "Please, what?" Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I need you to stop." I raised an eyebrow. "Stop what?" She blinked rapidly, eyes glassy, voice barely above a whisper. "You know what?" I didn't respond. I just stared at her and waited. Waited for her to say it out loud, because Lisa had spent her entire life thinking she was untouchable. She had spent years convincing herself she was the victim. She had convinced herself that I was cruel for not forgiving her. But now she knew the truth. She wasn't being punished because I was heartless. She was being punished because she deserved it. And finally, she broke. Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered the words I had waited years to hear. "I'm sorry." I tilted my head. "For what?" Her breath hitched. "For what I did to you," she said, voice cracking. "For that night. For setting you up for everything." I let the silence stretch between us. Then I stood up, walked over to her and leaned down so we were eye to eye. And I whispered back, "Not good enough." The final blow. Lisa left my office that night, shattered, but she still had one last punishment left to endure. Because 2 weeks later she walked into the office and found a letter on her desk. Her termination notice, fired without explanation, without warning. Because that's what she did to me. And now she was truly, completely, irreversibly alone. I had taken everything from her, and this time there was no one left to save her. What comes next? Lisa thought she knew pain. She thought she understood regret. But soon she was about to learn what real suffering feels like. Because I wasn't the only one she had wronged. And now she wasn't just my problem anymore. I thought I had won. For years I had imagined this moment. Lisa, broken, alone, discarded. I had spent years crafting her downfall, taking her apart piece by piece. And when I finally walked away, I expected satisfaction. But instead, all I felt was emptiness. Because there was one last decision left to make, and it would determine whether I truly ended this or if I let Lisa suffer for the rest of her life. Lisa's final descent. After I fired her, Lisa disappeared from my world completely. No texts, no emails, no desperate calls. It was as if she had finally accepted defeat. And for a while I didn't think about her. I moved on. I built a life without her shadow looming over me. But then one day, a mutual acquaintance mentioned something that made me pause. "She's not doing well," they said. "I heard she's homeless." I laughed at first. It sounded impossible. Lisa Monroe, once the queen of high society, the woman who used to mock anyone beneath her, now sleeping on the streets. But then I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked for her. And when I finally found her, I almost didn't recognize her. Seeing Lisa again. It was raining that night. Cold, miserable. I walked down a narrow alley in the city, one of those places where people pretend not to look. And there she was, sitting on a bench, a thin, tattered coat wrapped around her shoulders. Her once perfect hair hung in messy knots. Her once radiant skin was pale and sickly, and when she lifted her eyes and saw me standing there, she flinched as if even now she expected me to hurt her more. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched because for the first time in my life I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel vengeful. I just felt tired. And then Lisa whispered something I didn't expect. "You won." Her voice was rough, like she hadn't spoken in days. She didn't sound angry. She didn't sound bitter. She just sounded empty. "You destroyed me," she murmured, "and I deserved it." Then she laughed, a hollow, broken laugh. "But what now, James? What do you do when the person you wanted to punish is already dead inside?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. The crossroad. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything she had done to me, thinking about everything I had done to her. Was this what I wanted? Had I really spent all these years just to turn her into this? A woman who had nothing. A woman who wasn't even worth hating anymore. And that's when I realized I had a choice to make. I could leave her there, let her fade into nothing, or I could do something else, something I never thought I would. The last conversation. I found Lisa the next morning, still on that same bench. She looked at me, eyes dull, as if she was already prepared for whatever I had planned next. But instead of mocking her, instead of walking away, I sat down beside her. She stiffened. "You don't have to do this," she muttered. "If you came to gloat, just get it over with." I shook my head. "I'm not here to gloat." Lisa frowned, confused. For the first time since I started this war, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not fear of me. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what I was about to say. And so I asked her the question that had been haunting me. "What do you want, Lisa?" She blinked. "What?" I repeated it. "What do you want?" She let out a dry laugh. "What does it matter?" she whispered. "It's not like I get to have things anymore." I didn't let her avoid it. Answer the question. Lisa hesitated. Then, in a voice so small I almost didn't hear it, "I just want to stop hurting." I exhaled, staring at the rain-soaked pavement. And then I made my decision, the final act. I reached into my coat and pulled out an envelope. Lisa added suspiciously. I placed it on the bench beside her. "What is this?" she asked, her voice wary. "A choice?" I said simply. She swallowed, slowly. She reached for it and opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a one-way plane ticket and a check. A large check. Enough to start over. Lisa stared at it like it was poison. Her breathing grew unsteady. "Why?" she whispered. because this wasn't what she expected. She expected me to laugh in her face, to tell her that she deserved to rot. Not this. Not mercy. I stood up, tucking my hands into my coat, and then I said the words that ended it all. You don't deserve forgiveness. Lisa flinched, but I deserve peace. She looked up at me, eyes wide, stunned, and for the first time in years I saw something in her face that I hadn't seen since before that night. Hope, not for a second chance with me, not for a return to her old life, but hope that maybe, she still had time to become someone else. She didn't say anything as I turned and walked away. She didn't need to, because this time, I wasn't taking anything from her. I was giving her one last chance. And what she did with it, that was her decision, not mine. What comes next? Lisa had one final opportunity to start over, one last shot at becoming someone new. And as for me, it was time to stop looking backward. Because for the first time in years, I was finally free. I never looked back. Not when I walked away from Lisa that day. Not when I boarded my flight the next morning, leaving the city I once called home. Not even when I heard whispers months later that Lisa had disappeared completely. Some people said she had taken the money and left the country. Others said she never even cashed the check, that she just vanished, swallowed up by the world like she had never existed. But the truth, I didn't care, because for the first time in my life, Lisa Monroe wasn't my problem anymore. A new beginning. Starting over wasn't easy. I had spent years consumed by revenge. Every step I had taken, every move I had made, had been carefully orchestrated to bring Lisa to her knees. But now she was gone. And for the first time in years, I had to ask myself a question that had haunted me since the night she betrayed me. Who am I if I'm not the man seeking revenge? The answer didn't come right away. At first, I tried to dive deeper into my work. I spent long hours in court building my reputation as one of the most formidable judges in the country. I told myself that was enough, that power was what I had been chasing all along, that I didn't need anything else. But the truth was revenge leaves a void, and once you've filled your entire life with it, you don't know what to do when it's gone. The letter I never expected. It arrived on a quiet afternoon, a simple, unmarked envelope on my desk. At first, I assumed it was just another case file, another request from a lawyer looking for a favor. But when I opened it, I froze because inside was a single, handwritten note. No signature, no explanation. Just 6 words that sent a chill through my body. I made my decision. Thank you. I stared at it for a long time. There was no name, no address, no indication of where it had come from, but I didn't need one. I knew Lisa. She had finally made her choice. Did she take the money? I never found out. I never tried to, because in the end, Lisa's fate was never the point. I didn't need to know where she went. I didn't need to know if she had used the money to start over or if she had burned it as some kind of twisted penance. All I needed to know was that she was gone. And for the first time in years, I felt lighter. Not because I had won, not because I had broken her, but because I had finally let go. The true cost of revenge. People think revenge is satisfying, that it gives you closure. But the truth is, revenge is just another kind of prison. For years, I told myself that making Lisa suffer would make me whole again, that if I tore her down the way she tore me down, I would finally be at peace. But standing there holding that letter in my hands, I realized something I had never admitted before. I had wasted so much time hating her, so much time planning her downfall. And for what? She was already gone. Long before I ever started my revenge, the woman I had loved, the one I had built a life with, had ceased to exist the night she set me up. The Lisa I had spent years destroying, she was just a ghost. And me, I had been chasing shadows.